Everybody, we are going to raffle off this chair. Who wants to sit right here during the, no, I don't know why that's there. But welcome to the session. My name is Jendrezak. I want to talk a little bit about how we're transforming the IT organization inside of Microsoft. I've been at the company for 25 plus years now, so a long time. I like to tell people I started when people wore Birkenstocks. Then people stopped wearing Birkenstocks, and now people are wearing Birkenstocks again. So I've been in the company long enough to live through fashion trends. And so it's been a great ride. Hit the peak, went through some of the dark ages inside Microsoft, and now I feel like we're coming back and doing great stuff again. In my tenure at Microsoft, I have largely been in other product groups outside of IT. I spent an enormous amount of time in the Office organization. I worked on enterprise deployment and manageability, amongst other things, for, I guess we're all IT folks generally in the audience. I was part of the team that built Windows Installer, and then I was the person who invented Click to Run, whether you love it or hate it. I'm the person. And so it was one of those things where we had this idea of running Office from some other thing, and at the time we were thinking we would install Office from a USB stick. And we did some experiments with that, and it turned out that we ended up randomly in Microsoft doing another acquisition. We built on top of that technology, started streaming Office from the web, and then that snowballed into a bunch of other things that I got to be involved in my Office tenure, from having it stream from the web to saying, hey, we should have people sign in to the client, to then saying, boy, if we're signed into the client, we can attach things like storage so that you can save your content to the cloud, have it in your MRU. Then we said, boy, wouldn't it be cool if we could have services that are on the internet backing some of the features of the product. And so now if you think about the Office client, there's a bunch of services that are backing it. And then ultimately, that little idea of how do we stream Office from a USB drive, ultimately over a course of a number of years enabled us to transform our business model, certainly for consumers. And if you think about Office now, we have 35 million consumer subscribers to Office. And that kind of started really tipping the product in a different direction, where we took this old dog and taught it new tricks, where it was just a Win32 client you bought at Best Buy or someplace like that and installed it on your PC. And it turned into a service where we were learning how to be really focused on daily active users, retention, cost of acquisition, churn rates, all the kinds of things that modern subscription services think about. And so I had the privilege of being involved in that and going through a bunch of that history in Office. And about 2.5 years ago, in the IT organization, we were at an inflection point. The IT org inside of Microsoft was underneath the management of our sales organization. So we had our sales organization, and then part of that, underneath that leader, was the IT organization. And that leader had left, and the leadership had changed to be somebody who was an executive at the company, or is an executive at the company, and who had a long product development background. My manager's name is Kurt Delbenny. He's our executive vice president, works for Satya, and he's invented Outlook, or was part of the team that built Outlook in the early days, and then went on to build SharePoint and some other things. And when he inherited the IT organization, he managed the team for a while and kind of observed and listened. And then eventually he sort of scratched his head and said, why doesn't this team operate like the rest of Microsoft? And so the IT organization in the company had evolved in a different path than I'd say the rest of the company. And I like to think that we're a world-class product and services development organization at Microsoft. And the IT organization had evolved into, I don't know how to say it, not a world-class product and development organization at Microsoft. And so he was like, hey, we got to do something about this. And we actually considered at some point, this was before I joined the team, he was considering, what do we do? Do we break up the IT organization and not have one? But that would be weird for a number of reasons. And so I said, well, let me know what you're going to decide, because I'm not going to join the team if you're going to nuke it. And then so he and Satya had some conversations, and they decided, hey, we really want to take the IT organization and we want to transform it, and we want to keep it in place and transform this into really being a world-class product and services development organization. I'm like, sweet. So I joined the team 2+ years ago. We're probably two years into what I would say is a 5-year transformation of our IT organization. We're a large team with a lot of muscle memory. I think that's pretty common for most organizations. And so we're in the process of transforming the organization to be that world-class product engineering organization. And so for me, joining the team was awesome because I get to take a lot of the experience I had inside of Microsoft and then think about how I apply that to our organization and bring some of what I know into the team, and then learn a lot about how a large global corporation operates. And one of the cool things about joining an IT organization is that you really get to understand that. And so for as much as I thought through, I don't know what, just osmosis, I understood how Microsoft operated. I really had a very quaint understanding of how an enterprise operates until I spent some time in an IT organization. That's a really valuable thing for me. When I think about our org, I have a little word cloud here. This is the kind of things that we do. This should look familiar to most people here. We transact all revenue. We support our sales and marketing organization, our finance organization, our HR organization. Let's see, what do we do? Integrate acquisitions, on and on and on. We manage the supply chain, or we build the supply chain tools for Microsoft. We essentially work internally. So one thing that's a little bit of a disclaimer in all of my talk here today, I'll be honest and straightforward and talk to you about all the things where we've been challenged and struggled and where we're growing and that type of thing. The thing that I want to make sure everybody understands, though, is when I'm talking about things that didn't go well, it's not related to Exchange, Azure, SharePoint, Office 365. Those products are built by our peer teams inside of Microsoft. So, for example, the Azure team both develops Azure. They run the infrastructure for Azure. The Office team develops Office. They run the infrastructure for SharePoint, Exchange, et cetera. And so all of those product organizations have really evolved in great ways and deliver world-class products and services. And so all of my disparaging remarks are not about the Exchange infrastructure or the Azure infrastructure or anything like that. They're more about the tools and systems that we use internally in the company to do our work. And so I just wanted to make sure that I get that disclaimer out. So today, a couple things to take away. I want to make sure that we talk about how we've evolved and how I think we're turning into a modern IT organization. I spend a ton of time, we have EBCs, executive briefings, in our executive briefing center, and I spend a ton of time talking to C-suite folks from various companies about our transformation. And I tend to find that the problems we all face, or the challenges we all face, are fairly similar. I tend to find that people are really interested when I talk about certain topics and how we're evolving things. They're like, oh, really? How are you doing that? Let me know how you're doing that, because everybody sort of struggles with the same things, and we're taking an approach of aligning more closely to a development organization than an IT management organization. So that's an interesting sort of discussion for myself and other leaders, and so I can talk a little bit about how we're evolving. That'll, of course, come into one thing that hopefully you'll get from today is how our IT pros at Microsoft are moving from sort of an order taker posture to being trusted advisors and partners to our business stakeholders. And that's a big part of our transformation is actually changing our posture. It's not an easy thing to do. It's super easy to walk in and go, hey, we declare we're awesome. Now let us do all the stuff. But it turns out that you have to prove it, and you have to change people's minds. And so we're in the process of changing all those relationships with our stakeholders internally. And then I'll hit a bunch of specific examples of the kinds of things that we're doing today that I think exemplify some of the changes that we're making. This slide, we'll probably park on this slide for a while, so get comfortable, because this is the slide that I'll use to mostly talk about how we're evolving our organization. Let's see where to start. So we started off kind of as I mentioned, order takers. We had this dynamic where we had regressed enough in our sort of product mindset or product mentality that our business stakeholders, the people who led the finance organization or the HR organization or the sales organization or our professional services consulting team, the people who led those organizations in corporate built the muscle to believe that they know exactly what they need to make their business run successfully. The HR people believe they know exactly what they need to impose on our employees. The sales organization believes they know exactly what programs they need to institute to impose on our sellers to grow revenue and for them to hit quota, and therefore what tool capabilities are needed. And they looked to the IT organization as the team. I still hear it here and there today where they say, well, now that we know exactly what to do, here's what it is, and I need you to think about how to implement that using technology. And that's such a not exciting, maybe for some people it's exciting, but that's not a very exciting future for me to just be the person who's told what to do and to figure out how to not mess it up. And so we had that kind of a mentality, and so they built this muscle of like, great, we know the business incredibly well, and we're going to tell you what to do. And then that just led to a bunch of bad behavior on our side. It led to a bunch of over-functioning on the business side and bad behavior on our side. And so our goal, again, is to get to this world-class product development organization. When you're being told what to do, it's really hard to do that. I use an example where I say, look, if I was the product manager for Microsoft Word, and if the only thing I ever did was walk across the hall or up to the next floor and ask my equivalent of the business, which would be the marketing team, what I should go do, and if I did that for a decade, we probably wouldn't, Word wouldn't be here today. It wouldn't be the product it is today, because if you just go and talk to your business stakeholders, they always have a long list of stuff to do that's burning issues that are, at the foot of the business at that moment. A lot of important tactical work, but not a lot of visionary thinking. And so even that click to run, when I was doing my intro and I talked about click to run and how I did click to run, and then eventually we had a consumer subscription at the end of it, I had so many arguments with my marketing counterpart about, why are you spending so much time, John, doing some stupid new deployment technology? We already have Windows Installer. Please go do this thing that's a problem for me today. And I had to sort of stiff arm my marketing person for 2 years while we pounded away making this technology, which ultimately, not because of some great insight that I had or vision that I had, it ultimately turned into a consumer subscription because we took the time to invest in it. And so the IT organization is not doing that, or was not doing that whatsoever. We're starting to do that today. But we were very much in the go ask for permissions kind of phase of what can we go do. And so we have this set of things. If I think of this slide as really like, what are the things that we're doing differently today? And so there's 4 things that we'll build on the slide. I have to kind of read them because I can't see them on the little monitor. So the first one is really about transforming our operating model. And for that one, we really wanted to change the way that we function with the rest of the organization. And so there's one thing when we first started that I kind of viewed as the first existential threat to our transformation, and that was really about a funding model. We had this situation where we had maybe 70% of our funding for our organization was allocated to us annually, but 30% was transactional. We would get funding through a cross-charging back to the business. And that was in some IT organizations are 100% that way, where you have to cost account back every little thing that you want to do. And even that 30% that we transacted really set up a weird dynamic for us. It was this dynamic where the business would say, hey, we need you to do this thing. It's really important. We'd shrug our shoulders and say, well, gee, we don't have 20 people sitting around doing nothing. And they'd say, great, here's $10 million. Please go do it. And then we'd stuff $1 million in our pocket for overhead, and then we'd ring up like Infosys or Accenture or TCS or somebody, and we'd say, hey, we got this project, and here's what we need to go do. Here's $9 million, and we'd give that to them, and they would go execute on it, and we'd sort of take the requirements that were given to us and translate them. Infosys or one of our vendors would go do that work. They would give it back to us. We would pass it back to the business. We would hope nothing got lost in the game of telephone between everybody. If it worked great, that was awesome. We had no clue, really, because they were the brains behind the operation. And if it didn't work well, then we'd sort of put out our hands because we didn't have any money, and we'd have to take another $1 million or $2 to go fix it. And that dynamic did a bunch of things. It put us in this order taker posture. It made us essentially money launderers in some ways of the whole process, right? We were just kind of passing cash back and forth to offshore companies and doing work, and it was just this funky dynamic, right? And it really disempowered the IT organization. One of the things that we're trying to do in our team is build a sense of product ownership. And how are you the owner of a product if, in fact, you're just taking orders, managing the work of a vendor, and then passing the work back and crossing your fingers? And so we did a ton of work with our CIO, or CFO, I should say, to actually change the funding model. So we looked at the last 3 years of cross charges with each business. We snapped the lines back out to that, and we moved all of that cash perpetually into our budget. And what that did was it took us out of a world where we were constantly just loosening our belt buckle every time we got more cash from a business stakeholder, and it put us in a world where we had constrained resources. Now we had a budget, and we had to stick to it, and we had to prioritize. And so anything that comes in now, we talk about where does that fit in our backlog. And if we're working on HR features, we work with the HR team to understand where in our backlog does this fit, and what moves down if it's high priority. And that's just a good tension to have. It's a tension that every product organization inside Microsoft has, and it's one that we didn't have. And so we're really changing that dynamic quite a bit in our organization. The other dynamic that created was, and we did a lot of outsourcing. So when I came into the organization, we probably had 70% of our work outsourced to one of 4 vendors. And that's great from a cost savings perspective, but it really doesn't help you build that expertise in your organization. And so we kind of had this spidey sense of, hey, we need to build product ownership and expertise in our organization. How should we think about this? And so we wrote down a number of principles. We didn't want to just act randomly or out of some kind of emotional state. And so we wrote down a bunch of principles about, hey, how do we think about what should be done by an employee and what's perfectly okay to be done by a vendor. And it turned out we went from 70% outsourced and 30% insourced. We took those principles and applied them to our work, and the ratios flipped to where we said we really want to bring in a bunch of work into our organization, have that owned by employees, have them feel the ownership, the pride of ownership, the pain in the ass of ownership, whatever it is, right, that you get by getting a call in the middle of the night or stepping back and going, look at that beautiful thing that we deployed, built, run, whatever it is. And so we moved a ton of work, or we're in the process of moving a ton of work back in, which is a big deal. It's a big deal to do that. We went from a 4,000 person organization to a 50-some hundred person organization. We're continuing to grow over the course of this year. We've had to hire close to 1,000 people a year to backfill attrition and then to grow our organization. And when you're trying to hire 1,000 people a year, you have to interview and screen many thousands of people to do that. So we had to build this industrial scale recruiting machine, and then we had to do this whole transition where we were moving work from vendors to employees without dropping any balls and without raising cost. I see.
How'd you get budget for extra heads?
Pardon?
How'd you get the budget to get all those extra heads?
We didn't. We're cutting the contracts with vendors, or we're reducing those, and we're more efficient with employees than we are with vendors. So we get twice as much work out of employees as we got out of the dollars we spent for vendors. So that's essentially what we're doing.
Is that just kind of a ballpark estimate, or can you measure that?
We have not grown our budget whatsoever, and as far as I know, no balls have dropped. So we've been doing it. We went in and we had some rough estimates that it was roughly, we thought we would be more productive with employees, and we would go geo to geo. So the thing is if you're converting Indian vendors to U.S. full-time employees, that's not a good exchange rate, it turns out. If you're creating U.S. vendors to U.S. employees, that's okay exchange rate. And if you're converting Indian vendors to Indian full-time employees, that's an okay exchange rate. And so we largely did vendor conversions in region. Otherwise, if we would have gone from Indian vendors to U.S. Redmond-based full-time employees, the math would have been very difficult.
This also applies because you're an IT-centric company. Because most of the other companies out there have a business model which is not IT, and so I think that applies to your case.
Yeah.
Might not be the case for other companies.
The mileage definitely varies there. The statement was that applies to us because we're a product development-centric company, and for some companies that might not be the case, and that's absolutely true. When I talk with other IT pros, some companies have a development mindset, and some companies say, "Thou shalt not make anything; thou shalt just buy third-party SaaS products."
Are you, sorry, one additional thing. Are you able to get more support from product groups and?
Absolutely. So the dynamic, the question was, are we able to get more support from other product groups within the side of Microsoft? We do not get support from the product groups to do our work for us. but by becoming an in-house development organization, development, running, et cetera, and by having highly qualified full-time employees in organizations that match the pattern inside of Microsoft, developers working for developers, program managers working for program managers, having the same kind of skill level at an individual contributor versus compared to a first-level manager compared to a group manager. By having that parity between our organization and the rest of Microsoft, then we actually get a lot of really interesting collaboration. First kind of collaboration we get is that we can actually, when we're working on projects together, we can have conversations at the same altitude and the same level of competency. And that builds a lot of trust. And then we build skills in our organizations, and then one of the things that we're starting to do is co-develop. And so, for example, a hypothetical thing, let's say we're talking to Dynamics because we're building something on top of Dynamics, or we're leveraging Dynamics. And let's say that we say, hey, we need this functionality in the product because we have a huge global sales organization and we need whatever XYZ functionality. Maybe that's not the priority for Dynamics at the moment. Maybe they're working on something else for small business or mid-sized business. We will use our skilled developers and we'll actually co-develop in the Dynamics code base. And so we'll build the functionality that we need as a very large mega-galactic enterprise that hopefully applies to other mega-galactic enterprises as well who have sales organizations. And so we have this dynamic now where we're able to actually go in and contribute to the products in a way, whether it's directly in their code base, extending the functionality of the product, leveraging some built-in extensibility of the product and doing some deeper customization for us, building add-ins, you name it, turning code over. One of the things that we're doing with Azure is we're working closely with them because we wanted to have a good data catalog over our data estate. And so we actually got a little bit ahead of the Azure team on their data catalog development. And so we've been actually working closely with Azure to give them our code and to help them evolve the Azure data catalog as they progress that. So there's a bunch of collaboration that we could do there because we've built the competency in our organization. It's kind of a Microsoft-specific thing, but it's part of our transformation. We organize by discipline. I talked about that a little bit. We believe firmly that software engineers should work for software engineers. Programmer product managers should work for programmer product managers. Data scientists should work for data scientists. We had a sort of a Russian doll of general managers kind of organization in our IT org. And that doesn't necessarily lead to a great building of skills. Because as a university hire who's a software engineer, if I work for a random general manager that doesn't know how to write code, that doesn't help me get great at being a software engineer. If I'm a data and applied scientist and I work for some IT generalist, that doesn't help me get to be a great and grow my career as a data and applied scientist. And so we have really broken down our general manager model quite severely, and we organize by disciplines, and then we team virtually across those disciplines to build sort of virtual teams. And then last but not least, we have, sorry, I gotta walk over here and read what my last point is. Oh, business outcome-based metrics. So we used to measure where the gauges were and make sure that everything was running smoothly. We actually had these interesting things where we weren't looking end to end. Every IT silo was saying, no, my processes are all green. And then they weren't looking in the gap between theirs and another one, and it turns out that the end-to-end scenario wasn't working, but everybody would come and report that everything was green. It's all cool. And so we're actually evolving that quite a bit, and we're saying, hey, we're going to have business outcome metrics, and we're not even just going to measure how things are operating. We're going to understand how do we impact the overall outcome and trajectory of the business, and so we're spending time on that. I'm going to try to pick up the pace a little bit, because I have a sneaky feeling I'm running behind. We're spending time talking about how we're engineering for the future. This first part, coherent design systems. I'll cover it more in slides later on. Hopefully it'll be a little bit more obvious, but we're spending a bunch of time thinking about not consistent design, but coherent. Is the experience for our employees coherent? Does it make sense? And again, when I talk to folks like you in different meetings, and I talk about the myriad of web pages and URLs that we foist upon our employees, it looks like everything that comes out of our organization, and I'm going to guess your organization that your employees have to use, it looks like it was purchased by another random third-party SaaS provider with another random URL, and I find that's pretty a prevalent thing. And so we're spending a bunch of time thinking about how we build coherency into the experience for our employees, and that comes through in a lot of efforts that we do, but we're also building toolkits. One of the cool things that, again, Microsoft has is we have a UI construct called Fluent UI. And Fluent UI is then derived into the Windows UI, the Office UI, et cetera. We're actually building a UI for IT. So we'll have our own look and feel for how we deliver products to our employees. We are also spending an immense amount of time, kind of the middle two there. We're spending a lot of time, we were very siloed. And again, I find a lot of IT organizations are fairly siloed. We were as well. We're spending a lot of time trying to break down those silos. I always say one of my jobs is to bulldoze across the silos with a smile on my face as I kind of try to knock the walls down between them, because we were very siloed in how we thought about things. That applied to the way that we engineered stuff. Every engineering team had a different methodology for what they did within IT. And so we spent an enormous amount of time building a common way that we engineer our products if we're doing any development or any coding for our products. And then we really forced the team to sit down. We took the engineering leaders from every one of these silos, and we sat down every 2 weeks, and we went through all of our work, not project by project, but horizontal slice by horizontal slice, where we looked at security and all the aspects of security that we were concerned about. Performance, reliability, telemetry, accessibility. And so we sit down. We've eventually moved. We've graduated to monthly now. But we sit down with our executive vice president. He is part of the conversation. And we go through area by area, and we understand, how are we doing on onboarding to the telemetry platform? Okay, great, everybody's onboarded. How are we doing on emitting the baseline telemetry that we expect every service to have? And so we're just maniacal about driving this consistency across the organization. And then last but not least, really leveraging each other's work. Again, in a world where you're given cash to go implement something, odds are your engineers didn't spend the time to build a durable API that they then maintained forever that could be shared with other people in the organization to leverage. The vendor would just go and kick out the work and get it done as effectively as they could, and then they would pass the work back, and then we would then take the final product and package that up with 6 other services and then bid that out for a managed contract. And so by us moving everything internally and really focusing on leveraging each other's work, we're now spending a bunch of time ensuring that wherever we can, we're building APIs, and those APIs are able to be leveraged by other people so that they don't have to repeat that work. We're doing a similar thing with data models as well. And then last but not least is running like a dev team. We do DevOps. Of course, we're agile. Our product management, it's really program management, our program management organization is really we're spending a lot of time both there and in our software engineering, really grounding everybody in what it means to be a program manager. We talk about concepts like customer obsession, having a product mindset. We spend time deploying things. Has anybody heard of the HEART framework for metrics? One person. HEART: happiness, engagement, adoption, retention, and task completion. They're kind of things that modern services do. And we're making sure that across all of our services, we understand, are people satisfied? Are they happy? Not at an annual IT survey level, but in a product by product by product by product by service level. What's their NSAT for that thing? Are people adopting it? Are they returning it to it? And then do we have enough telemetry in place to understand, for a particular service, what are the tasks that people typically do, whether it's doing an expense report or doing a performance evaluation or whatever it is, and are people able to successfully accomplish those tasks? That forces the team to actually know the common things that people do and then measure whether they're doing it or not, and then maniacally focus and iterate on making it better. And again, I don't know if that's how everybody here operates in your organizations. It certainly wasn't the way that the IT organization operated at Microsoft, but it's the way that everybody else at Microsoft operates. It's the way that Google operates, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, you name it. That's how modern engineering teams operate. And so we wanted to be more like that. This is all connected to being vision-led, sort of bubbling out. We said, hey, as an IT organization, we always have this pressure to do 1,000 things. The challenge is that when you take 1,000 soldiers or whatever and you move one step forward, you really can't tell what changed. And so we said, hey, we have to keep doing a bunch of stuff. We have to keep all 10,000 balls in the air. But how do we take some of our resources and how do we focus them on something that's going to really move the ball forward? And so we said, this was about 2 years ago, there's a lot of conversation about digital transformation. We certainly as a company talk to all of you about how we can sell you more stuff to help you digitally transform. And so you can imagine Satya talking to his leadership team and saying, well, how in the heck are we transforming? And so we did a lot of internal looking, and we said, I'll spare you the long story, but we said, well, our products have evolved pretty well. I kind of talked about that in the beginning, about how our products have evolved, our business models have evolved, the way our engineering teams inside the company have evolved. But if we looked at how our back-of-the-house operations run, how we do POs, how we transact, how we enable our sellers, those kinds of things, they weren't competing in the open market against born-in-the-cloud competitors. They were the tools that we use internally. And so they didn't evolve at the same rate, and they didn't transform at the same rate. So we looked at our digital transformation ourselves as transforming a lot of the way that we change the things that the IT organization owns and operates in the company. And so that's really the basis of our digital transformation, which then became a basis of a vision that we wrote. And that was our focusing vision, where we said, look, we're going to have 6 pillars that we're going to invest in, and those are going to be things that, while we're keeping everything alive, we're going to really be focused on making progress in these 6 particular areas. And that was another good rallying and focusing thing for us in our internal transformation. In that vision, I'm not going to show you the vision today, but in that vision, there's 6 pillars that we said were important things for us to go invest in, and then with each of those pillars, we had a set of discrete investments, and we made sure we talked about like where that was going to take us and what our business outcomes were going to be that we're going to measure and all that good stuff. Our whole vision, though, we say accrues to three things. Taking our end-to-end processes and making them incredibly efficient. So transform processes, so grow efficiency or gain efficiency. That's a business outcome that we think that we can deliver as an IT organization. The second one, and that one's probably obvious to everybody, right? Make things more efficient. But we did a ton of cash by doing that for the company. Second one is, how do we actually create experience our employees love, grow NSAT? Happy, I won't say the analogy. I don't know what it is, a happy wife, happy life, I don't know what it is. So happy employees, better organization, better product. And so we look at this and we go, by having happy, engaged, satisfied employees, they're going to be super jacked up about working at Microsoft, they're going to love their jobs, and they're going to do a better job. And so we really want to make sure that we're affecting the bottom line by having happy, engaged employees. And then last but not least, we think we can grow the business in a ton of different ways, whether it's through the way that we process our contracts and our revenue, I'm responsible personally for the seller tools. So how do I actually get put on point to think about how I build features and measure the effectiveness of the features that I build or enable through dynamics so that our sellers are more capable and productive in the way that they sell. So those are the 3 business outcomes at a high level that we hold ourselves accountable to. Underlying all that, like how do we do that? Well, we do that by investing in the things that we said are in the 6 pillars I didn't share with you. But there's also some other sort of magic underneath there that's sort of like the mojo behind what we do. It's all about like having people-centered development. That's a really important thing for us, putting our users at the center. And so it's not our business stakeholders that are at the center. They're an important signal into our listening, but it's really putting the employees. It's the human who's doing an expense report. They're the people that we're focused on in our organization, and that's being people-centered about what we do. It's about applying data, thinking about data and applying intelligence everywhere we can. I'm sure you've heard lots of sessions this week about all the ways that sort of intelligence, AI, ML is being infused in the products that we build and sell. We're doing the same thing inside our IT organization. I have a 80-person data science organization that works for me that supports our organization. And we hire data scientists like crazy. And we have a data strategy that we're thinking about how we get the most out of the data and really build an enterprise data asset in the company. And then last but not least, we have a big thing of Microsoft using Microsoft or Microsoft on Microsoft that we talk a fair bit about. And that's really important. We build a lot of great software. And so as an IT organization, it's our job to leverage that software and to make the most out of it and to use that with our employees. And so we also spend a fair amount of time on that. I'm going to now go through some examples of what we do in each of these areas. On the people-centered development, I thought a good example of this one would be thinking about our new campus. And so Microsoft is building a new campus. And so there's a little animation here that shows like we're scraping a ton of campus and we're completely rebuilding the center of Microsoft's campus. And that's a 3 to 4 year project. Right now, it's just like the beginning of the animation. It's just a big scraped brown spot. And we're building a ton of buildings. Well, so we're the development arm, or maybe in old words, we're the technology implementers for our real estate and facilities organization that's building the new campus. And so one of the things that we're really involved in is what is the digital experience? The IT organization is not involved in picking out windows or HVAC equipment or anything like that, but we are thinking about how do we leverage technology to improve our employees' experience. And so we spend, as a team, we're thinking about what does the future look like for employees, and how are we obsessing about what our employees are going to do? We have, I mentioned I have 80-some data scientists in my organization. Another unique thing that we do in our team, or that we did in our team, is I created our product research organization and a user experience design team. And we call it our studio. And so we have the studio team that's about 80 people right now. And we started from nearly zero. And so we have 80 humans in our IT organization that are trained product researchers, that are trained user experience designers, and they then integrate with all of our IT organization to help them truly understand their customer, build great experiences, whether we actually write the code or whether we leverage something from one of our products inside of Microsoft, because we also influence the design of our other products inside Microsoft. And so we built this organization, and we built this organization to really help us make sure that we're putting this customer at the center. Because in the old days, a program manager or product manager in IT would say, things would come out of their mouths like, I don't know, the business needs this right away, we need to ship it, I just need a grid control to put in there because the business asked for it, we're behind schedule. And so that would be the kind of mentality, or at least that's the thought bubble that I would see coming out of our old program managers' heads in our old IT organization. And they would never say, well, wait, let's stop. What are we trying to accomplish? What are the users trying to accomplish? What problems do they have? Let's spend some time, watching their behavior and understanding what they're doing. And so we have this interesting mashup of people who are very schedule and satisfaction driven, and people who are coming into our organization who really want to inherently understand what we're trying to accomplish and the pains and challenges that our employees have and what the best solution is for that. So we have this interesting mashup of folks that are working on things like the modern campus, where we're really putting our users at the center. This is a random piece of collateral. I hope it's not something I couldn't share. I took it from a slide that said Microsoft proprietary, do not share. Don't take a picture. If I say, hey, put the camera down. so I don't think it's anything critical. But this is just a piece of collateral that says, hey, if we're really going through this and we're thinking about new campus, what are some of our focus areas? Hey, we're thinking about movement, about access, about productivity, about wellness. What are the subcategories of those things? Arriving and departing, staying and engaging, wayfinding. And then we build experience maps. I was looking for a really busy piece of collateral that we have, because if you go into our design lab, you see stuff all over the walls of the walkthroughs and the wireframes. And I didn't have that handy when I was putting this in this morning. But then we start building experience maps, and then at the end of the day, we're building end-to-end user stories. And we're using all these things to help guide the development of our modern campus. In the past, we would have listened to what the real estate and facilities team asked us to do, and we would have rung up Infosys, and we would have pounded out a bunch of code. But instead, we're stopping, and we're really trying to think about what we're trying to accomplish. Fundamental difference in the way that we work. From a data intelligence perspective, we had this other challenge, which I think is fairly common as well, in that we had data all over the place. We have enterprise data, finance data, HR data, sales data, et cetera. People say, hey, I have an application and I want to act locally on the data. I'm going to get permissions to grab a copy of the data and put it in my thing. Don't worry, we apply GDPR to everything that we do. But we have multiple copies of data, and that's just not efficient. It doesn't help us build great ML. It doesn't help us share. We end up writing a bunch of tools in many different places across many different teams. So one of the things that we're in the process of doing is defining our enterprise data strategy. We're pulling all of our enterprise data into one common data lake, and then we're building on top of that. We're building a catalog on top of that in partnership with Azure, so that we can have our data in one location. We can bring compute to it. Through the catalog, you'll be able to like publish your data. You'll be able to find data. You'll be able to connect to it. We'll run all kinds of processes against the data to make sure that it's hygienic and that the hygiene is good, that the quality is good. We'll have a data rating for all the data, or a quality rating for all the data in our catalog. When somebody builds a cube or a data model, they will put it back in the data lake and register it there so that others can also find it and leverage it and build on top of it. And so we're doing all this work to just build, I'll say, a coherent data estate inside Microsoft for enterprise data. And then Microsoft on Microsoft, we spend a lot of time as an organization building on top of Azure, SharePoint, Dynamics, Bing, et cetera. I want to show a little video really quickly that talks about some of the work that we've done with search internally.
We are reimagining the employee experience at Microsoft. Our goal is to make Microsoft employees the most productive, creative in the world. As part of enabling that vision, it's key for us to create a highly informed, personalized workday experience. Ability to find information and discoverability of information is key to enabling such a vision.
The way our teams came together is actually a pretty amazing story. It shows in our search success rate that actually has increased by more than 50% since we started this journey 12 months ago. We have seen our users actually sharing with us that they're so much more happy with the results they're getting, and that the ubiquity of the experience now doesn't require them to figure out where to go to search for what. They can just go anywhere and find what they need. This is just the beginning of the journey. We are working on Microsoft Search as one Microsoft. We will keep innovating with the customer in mind at the table with us at all times.
Awesome. That guy, Bernhardt, he used to work for me. If you go to Office and you've got the little search box at the top, he used to say, "Tell me what you want to do," and you can say, "How do you do a watermark?" He's the person that put that in the Office product. So we partnered closely with the Office team to build search, coherent search for our employees inside the company. I just finally saw the clock. I see I only have 2 minutes and 52 seconds left. So I'm going to try to hit a couple more things really quickly before everybody starts picking up and moving to the next thing. Then if you think about how we're transforming our processes, creating experiences employees love, and then growing Microsoft, I wanted to hit a couple more examples of some things that we're doing there. From a process transformation perspective, we have this thing that we call COSMIC. It's an acronym for that really customer-obsessed solution management and incident care tool. It's classic acronym kind of thing. And so we have this tool that we use. We process like $79 billion worth of revenue a year through our operations centers in Reno, in Singapore, and in Dublin, Ireland. And you can imagine sellers submitting enterprise agreements at 11:59 and 59 seconds at the end of the quarter and trying to get those jammed through. And so we use a ton of optimization and machine learning to process these things, to look for fraud, to find errors in we do OCR across them to find errors in contracts that might kick them back, to make sure that we're finding that proactively, to then find other things that might have similar patterns. And so we do a ton of stuff around end-to-end optimization of how we manage enterprise agreements on the back end. There's another one when we talk about experiences employees love. This is a good example of the kinds of things we're doing. Now, this is an example of us actually making something. It's not us providing a SaaS solution or doing a first-party piece. When we think about our employees and them trying to get things done in the company, there's lots of mundane things you do, from like going to the cafeteria and getting a coffee or a latte and wanting to get your punch card punched, or ordering food in the cafeteria, or for us, taking a shuttle across campus, or we have connector buses that bring you from Seattle into campus, so you have to book time on that. There's a number of things that you do as an employee in the company. The conference room's too hot, I want to adjust the temperature. And all of these things are things that, it's a collection of third-party SaaS solutions that we've purchased that aren't connected together, that lead to this incredibly incoherent experience. And so we have this little build that we do where we show this resonates with people internally at Microsoft, because these are all of our solutions that we have. If you're a Microsoft employee, you look at these things and this is where you go to do your performance review, purchase something, approve purchase orders, et cetera, et cetera. So we have all of these locations around the company. Every one of them looks different, feels different. You have to do tasks on them. You have to remember the URL. Am I writing my performance review? Okay, that's HTTP. What is that? I forget what it is. reward. I don't know. There's a URL for writing your performance reward. There's another URL for like giving feedback. There's another URL for actually giving the reward out to your employee when you do your annual rewards. We have all these different URLs. And it makes people aggravated, like you can see that in the photo here. And so one of the things that we said is we said, look, everything that we've done has been PC-based, and it's been third-party SaaS provider-y looking, even though the majority of these things we build ourselves. What do? When I'm taking my corporate required sort of mandatory training programs, I'm doing those in my office, at my workstation, or my laptop during work time. I'd love to take that thing on my phone when I'm riding the bus or taking the train or something else. When I actually am trying to kill time, I'd rather kill time getting my 30-minute video out of the way that I have to do for work, for standards business conduct training or whatever it is. And so we said, how do we really leverage a mobile device? And so we're actually making a thing. This thing that we're making is something that we think is going to be good for our employees. It's kind of an all-encompassing experience. It leverages the power of your device, so you have it with you. And for us, as we transform in our organization, it's this rallying thing that we're getting around where we're really leveraging our researchers and our UX designers and our program managers and our software engineers and our data scientists. And we're building this. We're starting with mobile. Don't look too closely to the right because we're really not focused too much on building a web or a web version of it. But we're building a thing that we think will be the thing that every employee will use every day to do a bunch of ancillary stuff that they do at work. And that will be everything from, see if I can get the slide to go forward. Here's a bunch of different screens that our design team has mocked up that we're in the process of implementing. Everything from like booking a connector and scheduling that to getting to work, booking a shuttle in the company, getting news about Microsoft. We have a stay fit allowance that employees get to do healthy stuff with the cash. So have I spent all my cash to stay healthy for the year? What's on the menu in the cafeteria? Let me pre-order my food. Let me get an SMS notification when it's there so I don't have to stand around in the cafeteria with like 600 other people staring at my phone. Let me actually go to get a coffee and pay for it with my phone and get my loyalty rewards from that. When I go to a building, if I'm going to meet somebody, we do, I think, what everybody else does. You walk into the building, you walk to some intersection, you look for a plaque. It tells you to go that way, that way, that way, or that way. You walk to the next intersection, you look for a plaque, and you slowly breadcrumb your way to find whoever you're trying to meet with at the conference room. We're going to build in here an application that does wayfinding inside the building for you, whether it's AR, VR, something will be in here that will help you find your coworker's office, the conference room you're going to. When you get to the conference room, if the conference room is too hot or too cold, you'll be able to say, make it warmer, make it colder. It'll weight those votes and set the temperature accordingly. When it's your anniversary, et cetera. We think that this thing that we're building will be the cradle to grave from everything from when you're applying for a job at Microsoft and getting acknowledgement that you have an interview, and then managing your day and accepting the offer and connecting with your future coworkers on LinkedIn. It'll be everything from pre-onboarding to what you use every day to when you leave the company, it'll be your alumni application. And so we're building this cradle to grave thing that we think will help our employees love what they're doing. And it's actually not that much work for us to go do this, it turns out. All this functionality exists other places. It just exists in other web URLs. And so we're just now exposing it in a set of widgets on a mobile app. From Grow Microsoft perspective, we spend an immense amount of time on top of Dynamics. I'll show one more video. It's an opportunity for people to leave, but hopefully you don't. This video shows how we're building on top of Dynamics and extending Dynamics in an interesting way to actually grow revenue.
Microsoft sellers are passionate about empowering their customers to achieve more. The new MSX D365 experience provides the best of the MSX portal and Dynamics 365 in one integrated platform.
And wait, this video? This isn't a marketing video. This is a video that was built by our studio team. So this is the kind of collateral that we build that describes how we're thinking about what we're gonna go innovate in. So this is not a promotional thing that we send for customers. This is purely built. This is actually low budget that we built by our design and research team to articulate what we're trying to accomplish as we're enabling our sellers. So sorry for not saying that.
See how 3 sellers use MSX D365 to be more productive. This is Eric, a field sales account executive. It's hard for him to unplug from work because he's always managing sales activities across several large accounts. Eric starts his day checking to see if there's anything urgent he needs to take care of on his accounts. He gets a notification showing that some revenue has landed. All the important details are included so he can easily verify that everything looks right. He also sees an email come through from one of his customers. MSX D365 adds relevant information about an E5 upsell. That's something he should look into later, but for now, he's late for work. When he gets to the office, Eric opens up MSX D365 on his desktop where he can see everything he needs at a glance. The application remembers things he was working on so he can easily pick up where he left off. Eric goes to the Contoso screen to get more context about the account, including consumption, agreements, and partner information. He also views the recommendations for the account. It looks like they're a good candidate for upgrading to an E5 license for O365. Eric views the details of the recommendation. It looks promising, so he converts it to an opportunity directly from the recommendation details. Now he gets playbook recommendations to guide him through this deal, and contextual information about the customer, such as their existing products and subscriptions. He can also assemble his team easily by requesting specific roles he'll need. Later, after key team members have been assigned, he can easily coordinate a plan of action using Teams. The team collaborates on a plan for moving the opportunity forward. A few days later, the workshop with the customer takes place. The team is well prepared and the customer is interested in moving forward. The system is smart enough to know he left the customer meeting and helps him easily make the update while on the way back to the office. With the time Eric saved this week by using MSX D365, he's able to focus on the things that matter.
So these are some of the things that that we're building. So that MSX D365 is us building on top of Dynamics, extending Dynamics through, I think it's the PCF framework that they have, and then us building some custom controls on top of that that allow our sellers to have custom screens that they have based on their role. And that's an example of us actually leveraging Dynamics, extending it a little bit for our enterprise, and actually using it to grow revenue for the company, because we're very focused on how are we helping our sellers, whether it's, in this case, it was this Eric guy who's an account exec, an inside seller, and then there's an inside seller manager vignette that we also wrote where she's actually giving coaching and understanding how our inside sellers are operating. And so we're very focused on what roles do we have in the company, how are we understanding what they're trying to do, and how are we making sure that that happens in the product. Last slide, there's a bunch of stuff that we've learned along the way. Shifting to a vision-led mindset is super important. Aligning partner expectations is kind of the next critical thing that we have to do. Our business stakeholders internally, HR, finance, sales, et cetera, they still like to believe that they know what they need precisely. And so we're working that relationship hard to figure that out and to adjust what our lines are. Building skill sets in this new model is something that takes a lot of time. We do software engineering days, we do program management days, we get all the hundreds of people in our different disciplines together and actually actively work on building skills and helping people learn and grow. And then assessing talent is really important as you're migrating from an IT organization to a world-class product development organization kind of footing. There's a lot of talent conversations that you end up having in the organization, and that's a thing that we've gone through as well. And then last but not least is how do we manage shadow IT in the enterprise. And if anybody's interested in talking to me about that, I can share what we're going to do. I won't hold people here for that. But that's something that is another thing that's sort of, when I talk about our first existential threat to our transformation was the financing, I'd say our second existential threat to our transformation is the shadow IT factor. And so we're thinking hard about how we actually get on top of that in a positive way in the company. Thank you. Sorry it went long. I appreciate everybody's time.